Hello, welcome to the lecture 2.1. The focus of this lecture is going to be introducing you to the IDE Spyder that we are going to use in this lecture. In this course, as I mentioned earlier, we will be using this Spyder IDE, which is coming along with Anaconda 3. We will be using this for developing the Python programs. But you are free to use any other IDE, including IDLE, which comes along with the Python installation for running your Python code. It doesn't matter whether you use Spyder or not, but if you use Spyder, it will be very easy to follow this course and try out whatever has been taught in the classes, as well as while you are listening to the lecture, you can also try it out in parallel if you have installed Spyder in your machine. Okay, now let us see how we can invoke it. I hope you have installed Anaconda and check whether the Spyder is coming up. You can type Spyder and you can choose. I'm running Windows 10 in this machine. So it might ask you whether you need to install 4.15. You can say that you can defer this. It's not required that you need to always have the latest version of Spyder. Now, this is the window, which is basically the editor where you can type Python code. And when you run it, it will be showing you the output on this window. This is the Python console, which is nothing but a Python interpreter running and then waiting for your commands. So I can write any commands here, and then it will take all the Python program code that you would like to develop. You could do it line by line here, or you can even call a Python file from this window. This is nothing but equivalent to a Unix console or a terminal that you might have heard if you are familiar with the Linux or Unix environment, or it is similar to a command prompt that we have it on Windows. Suppose you want to run a command. This is the command prompt. This is also a console. This console is given by the OS, which is running in my machine. It is a Windows 10 here. So I can give a directory command, which is processed by the OS, because dir command is a built-in command of OS, which takes this command and then gives you the output. Now, this is a similar window, but whatever you type is not processed by Windows operating system. Here, background, what is running is the Python interpreter, which is waiting for your commands. It's a Python console. And the version of Python running is given here. It's a Python 3.83, 64-bit, which is installed along with the Spyder when you downloaded and followed the steps that I have explained to install the Anaconda 3. So this has come up with that Python version. So I can give any Python command here and it will take this command and execute. Now this is one way of running your Python code. Or you can write the Python code here. This is the editor, a smart editor, and same code you can run it here. Now print. And you have just written a Python code here. If you want to run it, you need to give a run command. Then this file, it is right now untitled. And this Python file, it is extension is .py, py, is a convention followed whenever you develop a Python code. You can write it as .py extension. But it is not that you need to have it always, but you should follow this convention for you to be in sync with the entire world, which is using the Python code, Python programming language. Now, what is happening is when I say run, this Spyder IDE is calling the Python compiler and compiles this code and generates the bytecode. Then the bytecode is fed to the Python interpreter. Then it runs. So let me explain the sequence. Now, I have written a Python file .py something, some name, and then I have written a print hello world. And then I call run. This I did it in the Spyder IDE. Now this file is compiled first and it generates a PYC file. This is a bytecode. Now this bytecode cannot be run on the machine you have. It's not possible for this bytecode to be run on the CPU, because you may be having a CPU either from Intel or AMD or ARM. Those processors do not understand this bytecode. So we need to have a PVM, which is nothing but Python virtual machine, which is a software that accepts this PYC file, which is nothing but the bytecodes, the PVM, which generates the assembly code of the CPU that you are running on. Then this code runs. Now, when this code runs, we say print hello world. So it is printing some output, which is again received by this Python interpreter and displayed on the screen. So this is the sequence that happens when you have a Python file and try to run it on the Python interpreter. Now, it is not good to have an untitled some Python random file and you don't even know where is this Python file is stored. So later on tomorrow, if you want to look at your code and modify it and add some new features, you will be searching around for this particular file. So it is always a good practice to store it in a particular directory methodically. So let us do that. Now you have an option here, save as. So this code, what you have written, I want to save it somewhere. I have having a Python directory. Now I want to create a new directory, sample programs. So whatever sample programs I am going to develop as a part of this lecture series, I will be storing it here. I leave it to you based on your structure. You can create a directory. Maybe you are attending this course, so have a Python directory, and then you may have all the presentation materials that I will be sharing. So, or the videos. It is better you have a directory for all the Python code that you develop, and then name it like what I do, so that you will also be able to track it later on. So let's sample programs. Now, this course is divided into multiple modules. So it is better we structure the directory based on the modules. Now we are getting into module 2 and the lecture 2.1. So let us go into this. Now I can write the name as 2.1, lecture 2.1. L, capital L is better because you don't know if small l is similar to 1. So lecture 2.1, hello. That is the name. You don't need to give the extension. It will automatically py.py will be introduced by the editor. So I am saving this file now, L 2.1 underscore hello.py. Now you can check it by traversing through the directory structure according to what I gave you. So let us now do that. So you have the file which you have created. Now you can keep developing some new code as the course progresses, and you can keep it in each of the modules and naming them as what part of lecture series it belongs to, so that you will have a you will be able to have a reference to the lecture and then what code you have written according to the lecture. Okay, fine. Now, let me show you one more thing before we end this session. There are so many options which we will learn as we progress in the course. I don't want to do it everything in one go. So only one thing I would like to highlight here. Go to Tools, Preferences, and then Compilation and Editing. In this, you have an option here. So show automatic completion after characters entered. You may be having a 3 here because default when you install the Spyder, the IDE comes up with a value which it has chosen and you have a freedom to change it. I have made it 1 for some reason. I will tell you what it is. It is actually predicting the code that you are trying to write. Now suppose if I say P, it shows all the built-in library functions which are supported by Python. So it will help you to choose as you type your commands. So it will be very easy for you. Sometimes it may be irritating that window is popping up unnecessarily, but it also helps you. It's individual choice. I leave it to you whether you want to keep it as 1 or 3. Suppose if I'm choosing it as 3, you need to type at least 3 characters for this editor to guess what you are trying to write. So it is helping you to identify the pre-existing built-in functions which are there. Apart from that, it will also show you if you have written some code and then some functions, it will also show you those functions which it understands. I will explain about that as we proceed further. So this is the thing what we did now by changing the compilation, tools, preferences, and completion. Okay, completion and linting. Linting is something to do with verifying those code that you have written. So this is literally to choose how many characters you want, after which you want the light that I think you have already heard about the kite that I mentioned earlier, while installation kite. This is the tool which we have installed along with the Spyder. This is helping us to give this feature that you are experiencing it. Okay, this is basically provided by this tool which we installed. Okay, I think you understood how to write a code, how to save a file into a directory that you want, and then how to check whether the function is whatever Python file you have written is working fine or not. Okay, I hope you learned a little bit about how to run a Python code.